Hi, welcome back to the channel on the college process. Once again, I'm Ed from Principia Prep, and today we're going to be going over the different ways to apply to college and how each works: early action, early decision, and all the rest. But before we begin, if you are new to the channel and are looking for additional college content, please hit the subscription button down below. It will notify you when new videos do come out. As well as if you have any comments or questions, please leave them down below in the comment section. I do answer all your comments or questions you guys leave here on the videos. As well as if you do enjoy today's video, please leave us a like. It does help the channel. As well as, once again, we are running the James Russo Memorial Scholarship once again, as well as also in the description down below is the organization's Venmo, as well as our buy us a coffee if you want to help support the channel, allowing us to keep making these college videos for you guys out there. And all that being said, let me jump right into today's video: the different ways to apply to college and how each works: early action, early decision, and all the rest. Now, to explain the different ways you guys can apply to college, I'm going to put these groups into essentially 4 different groups of how you guys can apply to college. Now, the first group is going to be the early on group, basically the earliest deadlines, and I'm going to work my way that way. Now, right off the bat, you have early action 1 and early decision 1. Now, early action 1 and early decision 1, basically the earliest deadlines available are typically around October 15th. Now, the October 15th deadlines are usually for the southern schools, so the southern states typically have earlier deadlines than everywhere else in the United States, to be honest with you. In the Northeast and everywhere else in the United States, most of the deadlines for early action 1 and early decision 1 typically are for between November 1st and December 1st. Now, the way it works is you guys apply early on, get your applications, everything else in through the guidance office and so on and so forth, and you guys get notified typically between December 15th and December 20th if you did early action 1 or early decision 1, letting you know whether you got accepted or not, or basically were pushed into regular pool, which happens a lot for the early action, early decision, where they don't say no to you, they just push you in a regular pool, technically giving you guys a second shot of acceptance. Now, a big difference here between early action, early decision 1 is early decision 1 is binding, which means you can only apply to one school through early decision 1. You're not allowed to apply to a bunch of schools. And early decision 1 basically means that you get accepted through early decision 1, you have to go. It's binded, it's a contract basically. So the student gets accepted through early decision 1, you have to go to that college. Early action 1 does not have this criteria. You can apply to as many colleges as you want for early action 1 and not be locked into any of them. So that's the big difference between the two of them. Even though they're early on the process of admissions, early decision, binding, you get accepted, you gotta go. Early action, not binding, you're allowed to apply to as many early action schools as possible, and you don't have to go. If accepted, you have until up to May 1st to decide where you want to go. Now, it's usually recommended if you're looking at higher level schools, reach colleges, more difficult schools to get into, acceptances of, let's say, 10% or less, or somewhere in that range. Usually doing an early decision 1 in some cases makes a lot of sense, because many early decision 1 candidates will see a huge boost as far as acceptance rate when it comes to early decision 1. In some cases as high as a 50% extra increase in acceptances if you do early decision 1. Now, I typically suggest doing as many early action schools as possible, and when it comes to early decision, you have to be picky and you have to do your homework. You have to figure out, is this school, does it make sense for us academically, socially, and of course financially, before you go down the path of early decision, whether it's early decision 1 or early decision 2, which I'll talk about in a moment, because once again, it is binding, you have to go. And that being said, let's talk about the next part, the third part of the early group, let's call it. Now, when it comes to the third part, which is known as restricted early action, in some cases also known as first choice, basically the same thing, by the way, restricted early action or first choice is the same exact thing. This is kind of a hybrid between the early action 1 and early decision 1. Restricted early action happens essentially at the same time as early decision 1 and early action 1, between typically November 1st to all the way to December 1st. Now, there's difference between restricted early action and the other two guys is restricted early action is not binding. So if you get accepted through restricted early action, you don't have to go. But restricted early action also stops you. It bars you from being able to apply to any other schools through early decision 1. So if you're looking to do restricted early action at college, and some schools offer this, especially the high level schools, what's basically happening is the school is giving a little and the student's giving a little in this sense. Restricted early action means you apply early, you get accepted early, but you don't have to go. However, the give back here is you're not allowed to do any early decision 1 schools, so essentially it blocks you from being able to be locked in somewhere else. But it does give you the benefit, it does increase your chances of getting in if you do restricted early action, but you have to realize some schools not only say to you, you cannot apply through restricted early action for early decision 1, you can also not apply for some colleges if you're doing restricted early action to any private universities. So If you're looking at a high-level school and they offer restricted early action, make sure to check basically the terms, because many of these schools will not allow you to do early decision 1, as well as some of them will not allow you to do early action at any private colleges either. So you're restricted to just regular pool, basically for the higher level private colleges. That's the first group here of the early on guys. Early action 1, early decision 1, and restricted early action are typically the earliest application pool deadlines you'll have. Let's move on to the second part, which is the priority and the rolling admissions process. Now, both rolling and also priority deadlines are not binding, so you're not locked in again. The only one you're locked in, by the way, for any of these is early decision 1 or early decision 2. Now, when it comes to rolling, it's technically looked upon as the earliest as well as the latest way to apply. And let me explain to you guys why, and also why I brought it in this early in the video. For rolling, you can technically apply as early as September 15th. Or even earlier than that, to be honest with you, depending on when your school opens up, your high school, I mean. As long as you get your application, your recommendations, your essays, your test scores, and everything in, what will happen is through a rolling colleges, they'll get you a decision back within 2 to 3 weeks. So if you did decide to send your applications, everything in by September 15th, and everything was complete by then, technically speaking, you could have a decision by October 1st. Now, the reason I didn't use this as the first earliest on school is because rolling means you can apply anytime you want. So rolling admissions means you can apply early like September, or you can even apply in February, March, or even April in some cases. And once again, once everything's in, they let you know your decision within 2 to 3 weeks. So pretty good process where you get to know your decision pretty quickly on. Now, the priority deadline is a little bit different in the sense that priority deadline is more of a scholarship financial aid concern. Now, a lot of colleges out there have priority deadlines, and you want to make sure to reach out to every college you're thinking about applying to and ask them, do you have a priority deadline? Many schools, their priority deadline typically is between November 1st to December 15th. This is kind of in the middle of doing the early action, early decision, as well as the regular stuff and the rolling stuff, in the sense that the priority deadline is just for scholarship consideration, which means the deadline you might be looking at might be December 15th or February 15th, but the school's deadline for the priority consideration might be December 1st. So you want to check with every school, because if you miss that priority deadline, whatever it may be, that means they're not going to evaluate you at all for scholarship consideration, which is a big deal, obviously. After we pass the early action 1, early decision 1, the restricted early action, the priority, and the rolling, the next group we go into is the early action 2 and early decision 2 process. Now, these deadlines typically are between January 1st to February 15th. Now, early action 2 and early decision 2 are basically all the same stuff that we talked about before, in the sense that if you apply early action 2, you're not binded, you don't have to go to the college. Or if you apply early decision 2, you do have to go to the college if you're accepted. Now, you might be wondering in the back of your mind, well, Ed, if I did early decision 1, how can I do early decision 2? Because you had indicated before, I can't apply to any other colleges. And this is the way it works. If you applied early decision 1 to any college out there, and that school did not accept you, or they said to you, we like your application, essentially, we're going to push you in the regular pool, basically giving you a second chance of getting in, what happens is that contract that you had with them is basically null and void. It's broken, basically. The contract of saying you can't apply anywhere else early decision, and you can't go anywhere else if you get accepted. If we don't accept you, if we push you in a regular pool, that means that contract is broken. You can then go forward and apply to early decision 2 schools, basically giving yourself another chance at another college to increase your chances of getting accepted. Also, of course, will bind you, will basically mean you have to go to that university or college. So for these guys, obviously, once again, the deadlines is between January 1st and February 15th. Now, what typically happens is roughly around a month or so after the deadline, you'll hear back from these colleges as far as early decision 2 and early action 2. Now, after all of those guys, the early action 1s and early action 2s, as well as the priority, as well as the rolling, then next thing you have is the regular application pool. Now, for regular application pool, it's really a gambit, a huge scale here, kind of like rolling. For regular applications here, you guys have typically between January 1st, in some cases all the way up to, believe it or not, March 15th to get your application in. Now, the benefit of that is obviously gives you a lot more time to apply to these colleges, because you have all the way in some cases up to March 1st or even some cases March 15th to get your application for regular pooling. The negative side here, though, is very simple. There's going to be a lot more competition if you're looking to go regular only, because for regular applications, by then, by let's say February, March timeframe, people have already heard back from the early action schools, the priority schools, the rolling schools. So if they didn't get in, Obviously, the regular pool is going to be much bigger. If you're looking to do a regular application, perfectly fine, but I would suggest sending in as much stuff as early as possible to give yourself a best shot of getting accepted. Plus, understanding that's the biggest pool out there, so it might take a very long time for the admissions office to get through all the regular applications, which means they may not give you a decision back until some cases early April, in some cases the end of April. Now, once again, as I mentioned in the beginning of the video, you must make a deposit at one of these colleges typically by May 1st. So obviously if you get your decision through regular pool, let's say on April 20th or the 25th, you basically have 1 week to kind of figure out, is this the right school for me? Are they giving us enough money? Can we negotiate for financial aid? Do we want to go see the campus again? You're kind of like cramming it all into one spot, which you don't want to do. So if you are considering doing a regular, perfectly fine, but I would suggest sending everything in, no matter which way you're applying, by at least the middle of January at the latest. And all that being said, if you guys have any comments or questions about today's video, please leave them down below in the comment section. I do answer all your comments and questions you guys leave down below in the comment section. As well as if you do enjoy today's video, please leave us a like. It does help the channel. As well as on the screen is my contact information. If you need any help with the admissions or financial aid process whatsoever, I do meet with parents one-on-one as well as students to help out, to understand, to give you guys some basic knowledge of how your situation looks for admissions as well as financial aid. So if you need help, if you have questions, please feel free to reach out. That's my cell phone number on the screen. You can either call me or text me or send me an email. I do once again do one-on-one meetings with families through Zoom. And other than that, thank you for watching today's video. Once again, my name is Ed Zamora from Principia Prep.